Welcome to Hey We're Talking. I'm your host, Scotty D, with my guests, Mr. Derek Tant.
What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Oh, man, he is excited for this show, I can tell you that. And Mr. Bob. How are you, Bob?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on the show since I'm a guest. That's awesome.
Thank you. My guests on the show today are Derek and Bob. So excited today because it is Top 5 Friday. Boom, doom, doom. 5. We got to stop doing that and get a real thing. All right. So Top 5 Friday. Today is, just in case you didn't know already, some of you will be happy, some of you will be very sad, but today is the day that we inaugurate the next president of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump, president number 45 in the wonderful history of America. So today on the Top 5, I'm going to let our good friend Bob tell us what are we going to talk about. What are the top 5 things on the list today?
That's one thing that we all discussed, and we really had a really hard time coming up with it on Inauguration Day. What are we going to do? So we decided to talk about our top 5 presidents.
Yes.
So basically what we wanted to do is kind of look back at the presidents and give our opinion on who we believe are the top 5 presidents. And I'll start it off real quick with my number 1, and then we'll kind of go around the table here. But to me, the number 1 president of all time was Abraham Lincoln, a guy who began to eliminate racism and ending slavery, willing to stand up for what he believed in, and gave his life for something that he believed in. So to me, that just shows you a man who loves the country, who is dedicated to change, and to me, that's earned my number 1 spot. How about you, Derek?
Teddy Roosevelt.
And why?
Because he was a badass.
Yes, he was.
That's about it. I don't know. I should have done my homework. The time I should have been studying presidents, I was making coffee for our last episode. I got stuck on that. Okay. Abraham Lincoln. Gosh, what a good one. My real number 1, because I've never met any of them, but probably what George Washington. Is that a good one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you already said Teddy Roosevelt, so you can't say George Washington. And that was a good reason to pick Teddy Roosevelt because he was a badass.
Yeah, he did, and I think he went down and helped build the Panama Canal and
he
did all that stuff.
Dude.
Yeah,
he did some pretty badass stuff. So
he was a rough rider.
I had to steal back my number 1 because how can you not have George Washington as your number 1 president? George Washington, the people of America originally asked him to become the king of the United States, and he refused to do that because they left their homeland to come here and not be ruled over by a monarchy. So he refused to be the king, but the people asked him to be the king because they trusted him so much. So George Washington has to be my number 1.
And to me, he was my number 2. And not saying that he was bad or anything, but George Washington, of course, was the first president of the United States. He was a leader, willing to make change. He truly believed in not having a what you would consider a ruler, but I mean by how much everybody loved him and kind of looked up to him, he wound up becoming, of course, the first president. And really, he wasn't much of a politician. He was just a leader who stood up, and people followed him.
Yep. Okay, Derek. Since I don't know why we keep going to you next.
Well, now it's an
okay.
Who's your number 2, Derek?
Oh God, it's got to be between.
Give him more time. You want me to do my number 2 and you think for a little while so you have all your 5 ready?
How about William Henry Harrison or Grover Cleveland?
William Henry Harrison only served for what was it, like a month or something like that? And then died?
Yeah, he checked out pretty early because he got sick or something like that.
How about our 86th president, Cleveland Steamer?
All right, let me do my number 2. And Derek, you think about this. I have to take a number 2. No, I'm kidding. All right. My number 2 is because this is the era I grew up in. And I have very fond memories of Mr. Ronald Reagan. President Reagan was, at the time, I know people like to have revisionist history when it comes to Ronald Reagan, but Ronald Reagan did some amazing stuff. First of all, it was tough for him just to become the president because people saw him as an actor and not a great actor for that matter. And they made fun of him and thought he was a simpleton, but he was he surrounded himself with good people. He had charisma and he did a lot of great stuff. I mean, he was, as he got older, obviously he had problems and he had the funny voice and all that kind of stuff. But Ronald Reagan did some great stuff, especially when it came to the Cold War. And a lot of people won't understand that now, but the Cold War was a big deal in the 80s. We really feared that someday Russia was going to launch nukes on us and blow us to smithereens, and we were going to do the same to them. And people really believed that there was going to be World War III in the 80s. And Reagan was able to our country was very strong through peace. We created peace through strength is what I meant to say. And he was a great president in my eyes. So he's my number 2.
And it's weird. We're kind of, without getting real political, we're kind of going through that whole thing again with, Donald Trump not necessarily being a politician, as Reagan was an actor. He's basically a celebrity from television, reality TV, and all that stuff. And obviously there's issues with Russia currently. So we're kind of reliving some of that right now, which is a little bit strange, but that's the reality of where we are.
Yep.
Derek.
How about this is I'm just gonna name different guys and y'all. How about Lyndon Johnson? LBJ. The civil rights, education. Hey, look, he's from Texas.
Right.
His hometown is like 300 miles from here, and I've been to the Texas White House before a couple times.
So Scott and I, just for the record, guys, everybody listening and watching, Scott and I are doing our top 5 presidents of all time. Derek's going to do the top 5 presidents he can remember. So just to clarify that.
His next one is going to be JFK because Texas is where JFK got assassinated.
No.
Oh,
come on.
Sorry. Too soon?
Come on.
All right.
No.
Bob, I'm just going to do mine really quick because I know you're itching to give yours, so I'll do mine quick. One of my favorite people in history, let alone president, was Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson was like seriously a Renaissance man, just brilliant dude. The guy who drafted the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson had a huge effect on this country, and he was the president from 1801 to 1809. He had some trouble. He was not a great president, but he's one of my favorite people in history. So I'm going with Thomas Jefferson for my number 3.
And that is also my number 3. Thomas Jefferson was a hero, a visionary, a revolutionary thinker. One of the founding fathers, drafted the Declaration of Independence. I mean, he's got to be on the list. And yes, he had his flaws just like all of them, but he truly was awesome.
One thing I forgot to mention, and this is huge for me, I wanted to say it the first thing at the top, was he was really, really, really strong about states' rights. He did not believe that the federal government should have control over the states, but rather the states would decide how their people would live. He did not believe that the federal government should be the nanny of the people, and I loved that about Jefferson.
Derek, is there
any dramatic effect?
Derek, are there any you can just think of randomly?
Look, guys, I know presidents. I know some. All right, number 3. Hold on to your knickers, boys, because we're gonna go with Andrew Jackson.
Nice.
Old Hickory, the man who basically he was a badass too, tough, gruff guy. Someone tried to kill him in Washington D.C. and he beat the guy up as he was trying to kill him.
That's amazing, dude. I do. I think Andrew Jackson's a good one too. I almost picked him.
So that's all I got.
Okay, good. But those were good facts. I like what you, even just off the top of your head. No, I'm serious. I like what you're bringing to the table. I like it.
No,
it's good.
It's kind of on purpose. I know you guys are doing your. We're
literally reading off the screen, Derek. You're actually coming up with stuff out of your brain. Okay.
I actually made a Word document.
Bob actually did homework. This is more homework than Bob did all through high school, by the way.
Oh yeah, I mean, but what you guys know, I'm a preparer. I try to come prepared to my stuff. So
Okay,
Scott,
we gotta move. Here we go. I'm going with Dwight D. Eisenhower for number 4. He was part of the whole post-war economy. Everybody used to say, "I like Ike." And he was a good president. He did a lot of good stuff. There were 2 decades of turmoil after the Depression and the war, and Eisenhower led us out of all that stuff and made us a great country once again.
And my number 4 is Theodore Roosevelt.
Nice.
One of the cool things that he did is he introduced the Meat Inspection Act. So basically, what we look at is the FDA or whatever now that regulates the amount of type.
I know it's dirty. The Meat Inspection Act.
I know, but the thing is,
couldn't even get through it, Scott.
If this didn't occur, people would probably be dead from eating bad meat. He was determined to fight for workers' rights. That's another thing that I thought was good. A lot of people thought he was an honest politician who cared about people. He loved the environment so much that he worked really, really hard to establish a lot of national parks. So that was way back when, and today we've got a lot of national parks thanks to his leadership.
Derek, number 4.
How about the guy that got us through WW1, Mr. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, Mr. Woody Wilson.
Woody Wilson, everybody. I don't know if he did. I have no idea. I know nothing about history.
I think he was around during WW1, got us through it. Tough times.
I mean, he's got a great name.
Yeah.
Woody Wilson.
One of the best. Oh. Woodrow Wilson, everybody. Woodrow Wilson. All right. My number 5.
You don't hear that name these days, do you?
No, you don't. Woody Harrelson is the closest thing we've got.
Woodrow Harrelson?
Woodrow Harrison?
Woodrow Woodpecker? Woodrow Harrelson?
Oh, my gosh. All right, we're starting to get slappy here. All right. I could have put this guy anywhere in the top 5, but he just ended up being my last one, not because he's really the last. But Abraham Lincoln, how can you go wrong with Abraham Lincoln? I mean, the guy did amazing stuff. He had that beard. He had that hat. He did the 4-score. He got shot in the head at a play. I mean, how gangster is this guy? I mean, boom.
He did die from that shot to the head.
Oh, yes, he did. You're right.
Letting you know. He didn't survive it.
No.
What a badass. He survived it. No, he died.
No, he died.
Well, according to a movie that I saw, he's actually a vampire.
The Vampire Slayer.
Oh, yes, Vampire Slayer. But, I mean, he was pretty awesome.
That movie was kind of fun.
That was a cool movie. I enjoyed that. That was the only movie I've ever seen.
Bob,
anyways,
take us home.
My number 5, President number 30. You guys have any clue? Because it's not on the list.
Number 30.
Calvin Coolidge.
Yes.
A president that nobody talks about. He brought the country
Cal.
back together. Yeah, he brought the country back together. Blacks and whites, upper class, lower class. The United States saw the greatest economic expansion in the history while he was president, and he limited the growth of government, reduced taxes to the middle and lower class. Boom.
Dude, Calvin
Nice.
Coolidge. Another.
Yep.
You never notice all these guys have really interesting, cool names that you don't hear anymore?
Well, that's the thing. That's why I said, I mean, nobody knows who Calvin Coolidge is. I mean, that's not one of those names that stand out. So, but he did a lot of good in his time.
Yeah. You know who I forgot to mention, though, is John Quincy Adams. He was good.
Didn't he have an apple?
What?
Do I get to do my number 5?
Oh, yes. Go
Oh,
ahead.
Derek, holy crap. We forgot about you.
Here.
These guys. All right. Not Herbert Hoover.
Herbie Hancock?
I think
the vacuum
you
guy.
mean Herbie
The vac-
Hancock.
How about? I mean, obviously, look, guys, it's hard to really can't go better than George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, but I'll mention the guy that we haven't talked about, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yeah,
got us out of the Depression, got us through WW2. Buddies with Winston Churchill. Personally killed Hitler, right? Is that what he did?
I think
Ran him over with his wheelchair, right? Don't listen to me, guys. That's not what really happened.
He was
All
actually
right.
my number 6 because of course it's top 5, but I don't ever stop at 5.
No.
So
You just keep going and going and going.
I
But
like the
that's
energy.
good. So hopefully this was entertaining, and if you guys want to share with us some of your favorite presidents, feel free. I'm sure that Bob will be really excited to know the presidents that you're excited about. I'll probably not read one single one of the emails that you send to heywe'retalking@gmail.com. But make sure you join us on the show by listening to us through iTunes. You can also go to our website, which is heywe'retalking.com, which will take you to the Podbean website where you can listen to the show as well. Also, check us out on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. You can see our shiny faces and all the little smirks and grins and angry faces we make at each other during the show by watching us on YouTube. If YouTube lets us stay up. You never know. They could take the videos down for some crazy reason. We don't know what YouTube does anymore. But there you go. Thanks for
I said
watching.
a bad thing about Martin Van Buren, so I'd probably take it down. Nobody talks smack about Martin Van Buren.
Happy Inauguration Day. God bless America.
God bless America. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We love you. And hail to the chief. He's a chief, and he's worth hailing.